Lisa? Yeah, I think now it's not there. Mark? Hello everyone. Hi, Crystal and Chris. We have around 150 participants right now. Maybe we shall just give one more minute and then we'll get started. Chris and Michael, is that okay?
Super.
Yeah, perfect. Just one more minute and I think we should be kicking off. Thank you.
Super.
All right, so I think we're good to go now. Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, based on wherever you are joining from. And welcome to this second webinar of the CGIR Seed Equal webinar series. My name is Ajay Panchabhai, and I'm the regional breeding lead for ERI in Africa. That's International Rice Research Institute. And I'm also the partnership lead for Seed Equal, and I'll be the host for this webinar today. Well, as we all know, global agricultural landscape is changing, and it is changing really, really rapidly. And so is the need for comprehensive and inclusive partnerships. So today we have actually lined up a very, very well-known speaker for today's webinar, who is actually going to talk about the innovative partnerships for seed sector development. And with this, let me welcome and introduce our today's speaker, Michael Keller. So, Michael, maybe very briefly to introduce you, Michael. I know the time is not. Time is not really enough to cover everything, but I'll try my best. So, Michael Keller, he's the Secretary General of the International Seed Federation. This is the organization that is committed to support sustainable agriculture and food security through access to quality seed by the farmers. In 2022, Michael was also the elected chair of the International Agri-Food Network, which serves as the focal point for the private sector mechanism of the United Nations Committee on Food Security. And he's also a champion 12.3. Probably we can hear more about that from Michael. But he's also champion 12.3 to contribute to achieving Sustainable Development Goal target 12.3 by 2030. And as I mentioned, the list goes on. But something that I cannot miss is this. Prior to joining International Seed Federation, Michael worked in the French Senate as a parliamentary advisor, as head of European and International Affairs of the Mayors Association of France. And he also worked with private sector, notably DuPont and Pioneer Seed in various capacities. So Michael, again, welcome to this webinar, CGIR Seed Equal webinar. And as you are aware, we have participants coming from CG system and also beyond. So floor is yours, Michael, and you have 20 minutes to go. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much, AJ, and thank you so much for the introduction. And let me quite directly start. It's exciting to hear from you comprehensive approach you mentioned in the beginning, because I think all what I will speak today about is about collaboration, and it's about complementarity. And I think this is the key word. Also, when we think about speaking partnerships, it's about our complementarity. And let me start, if you go to the next slide, please. About complementarity, I'm very excited here to show also what we together at CGIR Systems and I have just signed a memorandum of understanding, and to give you a little bit more insights, can you please play the video? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And can we go to next slide, please? Again, very thanks to CJR that invited the International Seed Federation today, not only to showcase also our new partnership, but also to show a little bit more what the International Seed Federation, that means the private seed sector internationally, is doing and moving forwards also to innovative partnerships. The International Seed Federation is founded, and we are totally excited because this year it's our 100 years, and I invite you all to come to our 100 years Congress in Rotterdam in the end of May. We are celebrating this. And more importantly, what I'm always saying, it's about people. Because 1924, people met because seeds are moving. And yet at that time, seeds moved. And today we know it, more and more seed is moving. And let me start with this. There is an interdependency of seeds, and therefore moving seeds is absolutely critical for all of us. What is also important to show you also the International Seed Federation, the diversity. We have, as of today, 66 national seed federations who are member of ISF. This can be the American Seed Trade Association, so it can be the Chinese Seed Association. It can also be the seed associations of Peru, but it's also the Seed Association of Kenya or Senegal or from Australia. That means the diversity of associations existing is part of ISF. But I think what you're looking for is also more to understand who are composing these national seed associations. And I think this is really the strength also of our federation. As of today, and I think the figure we are mentioning here, 7,500 companies, is not more the right figure. This was part of a survey. In terms of membership of ISF and the diversity of members, I think we are far beyond 10,000 companies and actors, because just recently I was in Bangladesh, it's some month ago, for the first Seed Congress in Bangladesh. And even there you have thousands of actors yet, member of this Bangladesh Seed Association. But the specificity of the seed sector is also its diversity. These 7,500 or over 10,000 companies, these are family businesses, these are SMEs, these are regional companies, these are multinationals working in the diversity of crops. Working in the diversity of crops means over 80 crops, but more importantly, also working either on breeding, on production, or on marketing. There are companies who are fully integrated, working on the 3 pillars, but many of them are either working only breeding or production or marketing. And it's important to recognize also the increasing number of seed actors countries. That means we have 91 countries where we have actors in our federation today, and this is steadily increasing. And I think this is not only showing the diversity of our members, but it's also showing the dynamics of the sector. With these members, I will just stop on this one concerning our membership. We are covering 97% of the actors moving seeds around of the world. If you go to the next slide, please. And you mentioned yet in the beginning, AJ, there's only one thing, we are here. And this is also our complementary. I think we have all the same vision, and we have complementary ways to go there. We are looking that all farmers in the world have seed choice and have access to quality seeds to support sustainable agriculture and food security. This is our mantra, and I can tell you these thousands of companies, they are only working towards this access to best quality seeds and improved varieties. Next slide, please. And therefore, we have all a responsibility. And there I'm thinking also CJR as the private sector and all the others watching today, also this webinar, I think we all understand the importance of seeds, because seeds is the starting point of food production. A good seed is the first starter of a good harvest. The other inputs are important, but I think we all agree the seed is the most critical one. To go to the next slide. And as ISF, we took some years back, we took the Food System Summit. Remember you 3 years ago, we had the first Food System Summit. We took this also to highlight a little bit more the importance of seeds. And I think this is a joint endeavor here, but also to increase the understanding why seeds is so important as a starting point for not only food production, but also for all of us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And you see on the right side, a lot of the SDGs where seeds seed breeding, production, marketing is absolutely critical, because all of them are critical for also that our farmers can support the SDGs achievement everywhere. We know we are far away. However, I think we are all engaged in this direction. And you see the diversity of actions we are driving also through the seed declaration we made some years back. We can go to the next slide, please. And I think this is something where, and I can imagine also we will get some question marks. Yeah, seed and what we are doing, it's what we are looking for is sustainable agriculture, but it's also about a sustainable economical project. It's about a win-win situation. That means, and I would like to emphasize this one, because there is also sometimes perhaps the understanding is not the one which is reflecting the reality. For a seed company, it is important to have a long look. For a seed company, it's important to be able to continuously invest in innovation. And I can tell you there's no other private sector out there who is investing as much as the seed sector into research. 25% of its turnover. It's not in the auto industry or even in the medical industry. This is showing also not only the importance of innovation itself, it's showing also the importance of innovation. Continuously we have to innovate, continuously need to think about, hey, what's the farmer facing today? What is the farmer facing today, tomorrow? And how we can support the farmers with new improved varieties. And therefore it is in our mantra, it is really in the heart of our functioning, continued innovation. And just to provide you a little bit a sense of also in terms of investment, overall, it's potentially $10 billion by the private sector invested every year in over 80 crops in the southern and northern hemisphere. I think this is an important figure. This is by also showing the importance of what we have to bring to the market to bring quality seed to farmers, but also that the farmers have the right varieties to address the different challenges they are facing. Every year, you see 14,000 new varieties. This is also giving an amplitude of the importance of new varieties coming to the market. And there are many studies out there showing the importance of improved varieties for farmers. I just took one example from Ethiopia, which is a source from an NGO, Fair Planet, showing an improved variety can increase by 5 to 5.7% the yield, and 5 times 7 the yield. And I think this is incredible. And that's where we need to think about. The farmers are facing challenges. We need to private the farmers that they have also this increase of harvest. And you see, it's about better yield, it's about better resilience, but it's also about better quality and better livelihood. And I'm coming back here, what I mentioned before on the SDGs. Next slide, please. And I'm coming here more to the point on seed resilience, but I believe this is particularly linked to the partnerships. What we are looking for is continued genetic progress. I think we all agree. We need it. This is absolutely essential also to address all the challenges farmers are facing today will face tomorrow, and also new consumer requests for it. We need to incentivize innovation. It's absolutely critical. You need to incentivize innovation. If not, you're stopping innovation. But, and here, and I know also CGR, it's in the heart of the work of CGRs, we need sustainable seed systems. And I'm here not to tell you there is one seed system. No, I think we all agree, and we all agree we need to work on the idea of inclusive seed systems. A farmer is not looking which kind of seed system he's using. The farmer is looking what is the best crop, what is the best variety she or he needs in the fields. And therefore it can be a farmer is sourcing himself from a formal system or from an informal system. And I think this is the call also for us to work further together on this idea of inclusive seed systems with different layers. It's about complementarity and sustainable seed trade. We saw it also during COVID. We have no right of disruption. Seed needs to move, and no country is independent on seeds. If you go to the next slide, please. And therefore, we took a couple of initiatives in the recent months. Next slide, please. And here are some of them. That means we signed a memorandum of understanding with CGIAR, and you saw also the goal of this. And again, it's about providing access to seeds. We have an important seed resilience initiative in Rwanda. We have a Seeds for Food coalition launched, and we have also a very important World Seed Partnership. Next slide, please. Next one, please. And the Seed Resilience Project in Rwanda is nothing else than to support also the initiatives of the government to provide not only the discussions of sustainable seed systems, but to increase the choice for farmers. That means we are working with companies and NGOs on the ground also for trials, for information, for expertise sharing, but also to think about, hey, what are the crops perhaps missing in Rwanda to support the farmers, and how we can bring also innovation into the market in Rwanda. And I think this is something extremely complementary with also the initiatives taken by the Rwandan government recently on the strategic roadmap to support the private sector. And we are here also to discuss together with the authorities and the National Seed Association of Rwanda the policy debate, because enabling business environment is absolutely essential also to build the needed investments. Next slide, please. We launched also, and this is a very interesting initiative, Seeds for Food Coalition in the fringes of the UN Food System Summit. And this is launched together with the government of the Netherlands, but currently we are reaching out to Malawi, we are reaching out to Rwanda, to Ghana, to bring in other governments also, because it's nothing else than how to position better also seeds in the whole discussions on Food System Summit, and how to position better also this understanding of inclusive seed system as something critical to address also when we are speaking about food systems. We need to integrate also the whole discussion about seed systems. Seed systems somehow is a starting point for food systems. And whenever you would like to change food systems approaches, I think you need to include also the discussions on the seed systems to be able to supply the changes which are decided on the food system. If you go to next slide, please. Yeah, this is an initiative which is a little bit longer, a more formal initiative. This is together with OECD, with UPOV, with ISTA, and the World Farmers Organization. And we got requests, the different organizations here, and I imagine you know all of them, get requests on our supporters in this country on plant variety protection, or supporters here on OECD seed certification, or supporters on seed testing. And what we built here with the Full Seed Partnership, it's like a one shop. You are looking to increase seed supply in your country. You're looking for investments of the private sector, or you're looking for building a more clarified seed system. Here, you can enter in contact with us together, because we are here to support sustainable agriculture with the same vision. And this is also something in the near future we should think about also with CGR to participate perhaps more in depth into this World Seed Partnership. If you go to the next slide, please. And here you have some examples where we work together in a country like Tanzania, with incredible outcome. And again, this is not only because what we have done, this is also driven by the authorities in the country, but also by the sector in the country, by the farmers in the country. I think this, I would not say this is thanks to us, but we are certainly could contribute also to this incredible increase of certified seeds in Tanzania, what means also increased choice for farmers. And this is exactly what we are looking for. And we are always here to be open, and we are very open to engage with other countries to put in place such a joint contribution as a World Seed Partnership. If you go to next slide, please. And here we are coming, and we are really happy at our side that we could finalize this memorandum of understanding, because again, I think we have all the same vision. What we are looking for is, first of all, awareness about the benefits of modern varieties. Also, what is more important is then also the access, this seed choice for farmers, choice. This is the critical one. And also this access, that in this choice, there can also be access on high quality seeds. And we know there are far too many countries out there where still this access to high quality seed is not at the level where it should be also for the farmers in the country. If you go to the next slide. And these are the different somehow levels of collaboration we would like to work on. Regulatory frameworks, and I think that's also the discussion I just mentioned before, seed systems. Hey, how we can push further seed systems, because the enabling business environment and regulatory environment is something critical. But also, yeah, partnerships, how we can also build more partnerships with at the farm level, and also to explore further communication on the overall support we can provide in terms of stewardship and compliance. And it's nothing more than and nothing less than finding models really for capacity building, also for local regional seed producers and farmers, because this is something which we certainly need to collaborate in our complementarity. If you go to the next slide, please. And that means our takeaway messages from the private sector is very simple. Seed choice. It's all about seed choice for farmers, seed resilience. I think seed resilience is a reality which is not yet there. We need to fight for this. We need to engage for this. We need to trust in each other. And I think this word trust is absolutely important. When we think, yes, we have complementarities, but also to use best or make best use out of our complementarities, we need to have trust in each other to build this seed resilience in the diversity of the countries worldwide. And therefore, if you go to the next slide, and that's my last one, we believe really in partnerships. We believe really in we can only contribute and find solutions together. Again, also, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. We have all our strengths, and we should take them and move ahead. And we can learn from each other. And I think to contribute together, that's nothing else what we are looking for also as ISF in our partnership with CGI. Thanks again, and back to you, AJ.
Wow, thank you, Michael. This is great. Thank you again. So, Michael, as I look at my screen, so there are 340 participants and plus put together the panelists. I think we're about 350 group today, which is awesome. And thank you for agreeing to deliver this presentation, Michael. So I was also looking at some of the chats and Q&A, and then somebody posted that it's a powerful presentation. Indeed, it's a powerful presentation, and thank you for that. Well, so my appeal to the participants is that please feel free to post your questions in Q&A box, and we'll basically try our best to pick those questions and get insights from Michael. So Michael, while we wait for already there are some questions, Michael, already, but then while we wait for some more questions to really pop in the Q&A box. So we within the CDQL group also got a chance to kind of brainstorm little bit about how best we can leverage from your presence today, and some of those thoughts which came out, and we thought that those are also the kind of very relevant reflection coming from the broader audience from the seed sector. So let me just put those things to you first, and then we'll open it for the Q&A session. So the first and so Michael, although you touch base widely on some of those angles already, but then we really wanted to understand your insight on that.
I cannot hear you.
Sorry.
You lost Ajay?
Yeah. So, sorry, Michael, can you hear me now?
You're back.
All right. Yeah. Thank you again. So when we look at some of the biggest agricultural challenges in typically in low and medium income countries, so the last mile, and to translate that into the technical term, basically delivering genetic gain to the farmer's field. So that has been the challenge up until now. So we really wanted to understand your perspective on how ISF is innovating with your member companies and member partners to really serve this specific need coming from these low and medium income countries. Michael.
Yeah, thanks, AJ, for this question. And let me turn it around like this. I think it's not only a problem of the last mile. I think in many countries, we have examples like South Sudan or others where you don't have only 10% of seeds is certified or quality seed is coming to the farmer. I think there's a real how should I say, a real issue today in many countries still to build this seed choice to farmers. And why this is existing, and I think that's where we are thinking with this partnership, we need to go beyond how we worked before. Because we have in many countries, very often I get raised, why your companies are not here? Why your companies are not investing? Why your companies are not building breeding programs? Why your companies are not producing in our countries? And I think what I mentioned before, a seed sector is always ready to go. But what is a critical one for a seed sector and the private sector? And I think that's a little bit where we have also the same, perhaps even same question mark. We need an enabling business and regulatory environment. So I think this is absolutely a starting point before you are going in a country or before you are thinking to build breeding programs or even collaborations in a country. I think you need also to have a certain clarity. What is the enabling business and regulatory environment? And I really remind everybody that there were very good studies out there also from the World Bank on this enabling business environment in seeds. And this is an important learning to show also whenever this enabling business environment is present, there's an opportunity to build also a vibrant seed sector. And here, let's be frank, AJ, in many countries in Africa today, you don't have a vibrant private seed sector. What means a vibrant private seed sector means also not only breeding programs, because perhaps that's a last step, but it means also the capacity for production, the capacity for multiplication, the capacity even for take-up of varieties of CGIR material. I think this is something where we all have to have in mind. The enabling environment is absolutely critical. And the second point I would like to mention here, when you're speaking beyond the last mile, I think it's also yet there is a dialogue need also between national authorities and the private sector. I think to build also the trust on the private sector, because the private sector is here to support farmers. The private seed sector is here to support farmers in the long term. We are not going into a market to provide one seeds. What we are looking for is to build sustainability in agriculture, but also sustainable business program. And therefore, I think this is this long-term vision where we need to build also more understanding how a private sector works, how a private sector invests, and how a private sector is also working in collaboration with farmers. But I think also there's another point, AJ, where we need to think about, and these are examples we know from also countries like Myanmar and others. It's about the whole understanding. Even if you are going beyond the last mile, it does not mean that the farmer is taking up an improved variety. Because a farmer who never had the chance to work with an improved variety or quality seeds does not understand perhaps also the added value. That means this is the whole discussion we need to have about expertise, knowledge sharing, and information also for the diversity of farmers. And I think this is something where about this delivery of this package also, we need to think how we can collaborate. And when you take our program in Rwanda, that's exactly what we are looking for. We are going into a country, we are testing the varieties. Are these varieties right for the market? Okay, good, let's see. But then these varieties needs also to be tested by farmers. And farmers needs to understand what it means in agronomical terms to use improved varieties. You see, that's the full package where we need to think about how we can support farmers also in knowledge sharing, in support, beyond only the question of the last mile, because in many countries, as I mentioned, there is still a big gap on availability or accessibility also to improved varieties.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So actually, this really opens up to many other, I would say, offshoot questions as well. But the one thing that I think the interesting thing that you mentioned, Michael, is that it's really important to have that objective of last mile and also the common understanding. So so when we look at some of the organizations, for example, CGIR, and at the same time when we look at the, let's say, your member companies. So when we talk about the common understanding and especially looking at the last mile, it's always not the case that we are looking at the same last mile. or at least the way we interpret, probably it's not the same thing again, right? So CG obviously is coming from the smallholders farmers perspective. So we really wanted to understand. I know you touched base already in your in your presentation as well. But like who does ISF really represent from that perspective, and how does this smallholder agenda really fits into the vision and mission of your member companies, Michael?
Thanks again, AJ. And as I mentioned, I'm very happy that I have also two colleagues today with me. And I'm happy here also to give the floor to my colleagues because ISF is not only
Sure,
Michael and there are
sure,
other
sure.
colleagues here. And I think perhaps my colleague Kaola will step in here. Thanks again. Huh?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Michael, thank you, Ajay. To respond to this question, really, who does the ISF represents in the seed industry? So ISF, as Michael mentioned, is the global voice of the private seed sector since already 100 years, and memberships encompasses really a diversity of companies with more than 7,000 seed companies around the world, ranging from family businesses to small and medium enterprises to large corporations. And the figures have been explained in the presentation. When it comes to the smallholder farmer needs in mind, and especially in Africa, it's really ISF has all farmers in mind. So we are not only in Africa, our vision is to deliver quality seed choice to farmers, all farmers. And our member companies are not breeding for one farmer or the others. The goal is to serve all type of farmers, as I said, including smallholder farmers. And again, when it comes to the ISF as a representative organization, we are working more and more on the ground, as Michael has mentioned, like the Rwanda project in Africa, for Africa, and really start on having joint several partnerships like the one we are having today with CGIAR. So thank you, Ajak. Back to you.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Kaola, and thanks, Michael. If I could just maybe let me pose one more question to you, Kaola and Michael. And this goes back to what you mentioned, Kaola, and also to what Michael presented as a partnership between CGIAR and ISF. So while this is going on very, very well, and I know we are coming together in broader interest. But Michael, there also has been some kind of like I would say apprehension or maybe concern that ISF represents an kind of like increasingly concentrated industry and dominated by a few large multinational companies. And of course, there are subsidiaries. So some companies are doing well in addressing smallholder needs and biodiversity conservation and climate change adaptation and so on. But many others are not. And obviously, we can go back to some of those published reports, for example, access to seed index and so on. So how do you look at that? What is ISF's lookout for this kind of like industry structure and, your conduct and performances? Yeah, Michael.
Thanks to you, AJ. And Sonia, my colleague Sonia, will step in now to show the complementarity of ISF. Thanks.
Michael, and good afternoon to everybody. My name is Sonia Czurga, and I also work for the ISF Secretariat. So, yeah, on that question, I think it's a question which is, of course, very often asked to ISF and also other representative organizations of the seed sector, national and regional level, I guess. Of course, there is concentration in the sector, but there is concentration in all sectors. I simply think that it's a fact of a globalized world that concentration is happening in all sectors. And fortunately or unfortunately, our sector is not an exception to that. So we recognize this and we take it very serious that this is happening. And we are also looking into the reasons why concentration is taking place. But I think we also need to be a little bit more nuanced when we talk about concentration in the seed industry, looking into the different regions and also into the different crops. Because it is true that in certain regions and in certain crops, there is high concentration, but there are also regions and crops where we cannot really talk about a high concentration because the number of companies, especially the number of small companies, is really high still. And I can give you some examples. For instance, field crops, cereals in Europe, the number of companies is really high, and we have a lot of small family-owned businesses still doing breeding and still doing a great job, being able to compete with the big, large multinationals. I'm just mentioning that because I've seen a lot of questions in the Q&A asking about how small companies can still compete with the large ones. They can, because they are doing a great job. And in the end, the choice is with the farmer. So if the small companies are able to breed 1 or 2 really great variety, which the farmers like, they can still remain in business because they have addressed the needs of farmers. And this is also coming back to the other part of your question, Ajay, about whether all companies address climate change, adaptation, biodiversity conservation type of questions. And I think we just would like to be clear about the fact that this is not something new or something foreign to seed companies, because climate change adaptation, conservation of biodiversity and genetic resources, and addressing the needs of all farmers, including smallholder farmers, is simply part of their daily work. In each and every breeding program that they are going to start, they are going to include those elements and address those issues in their work. So I know the Access to Seeds Index, and of course we are also working with them and looking into the index, but it's also maybe of a limited scope. It only rates a few companies, or maybe not few, but only part of the seed sector. And we haven't seen an index since 2019. So maybe that's also time to look into that a little bit more to update. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Carla, Michael. So, Sonia, as you rightly mentioned, there have been kind of lots of questions actually flooding in. Let me pick some of those. So the first one is from Gabriel. Says, why is it that seed companies are supporting legislation that prohibits sharing of seeds by communities who are using open pollinated varieties that have been in their communities for decades? Anyone would like to take a shot at it?
I assume it's going to be me.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think that thank you for the question. I think the question is alluding to intellectual property protection, plant breeders' rights systems that we are applying, or many companies rely on within our sector. I think it's not entirely correct to say that we are promoting legislation which prohibits farmers from exchanging seeds that they have been using since decades. Why am I saying that? First, because seeds that have been used by farmers since decades and varieties or material that they have been using will never be subject to intellectual property rights, because you can only protect varieties which are new, newly created by companies. So anything that farmers have had on their fields is not protectable by plant breeders' rights. So it cannot be prohibited by any company to use those seeds. I think the question is more if farmers are using improved varieties or varieties which might be subject to other types of intellectual property rights than plant variety protection, there can be implications on whether or not you can exchange seeds that you have saved from the previous season. But there are also exceptions to intellectual property rights. So you also need to look into what exceptions are there, which actually do allow saving and using seeds. And some of the exclusions or exceptions, may also allow practices and activities that have been traditionally used by farmers also to sell seeds on local markets or potentially exchange with fellow farmers in other types of traditional ways. So I know that there are a lot of concerns, and I think we are very conscious of those. And we are very open to discuss about these with farmers, NGOs, and anybody else who has concerns, because we need to find ways to address those concerns.
Excellent. So, Sonia, while we are on the same topic of intellectual property, let me just very quickly pick one more in the same category. So it says, this is from Janet Lewis, and it says, can you comment on ISF partners' approach to the SMTA and also to the intellectual property questions?
Can I ask what is meant by partners' approach? I don't know if
so it says no. Say it says ISF probably ISF member companies approach towards SMTA and IP. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the SMTA, which is the Standard Material Transfer Agreement under the international treaty to get material from get genetic resources from the treaty, and then also to further maybe pass on. We do use that system. So our companies use the Standard Material Transfer Agreement of the treaty. They rely on the system when they need genetic resources that belong to the Annex 1 or that are covered by the Annex 1 of the treaty. So I cannot really elaborate more on that. Our companies support the system, and they also are committed to provide benefit sharing wherever that is applicable. And of course, I guess also the person who asked the question knows that the system, the multilateral system and the SMTA of the treaty is under review. And we are very committed in that process in order to find an enhanced and improved way of benefit sharing under the treaty. And maybe I can also mention that at some point in time, we are also going to further discuss together with CGIAR centers how we are working with the SMTA.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you, Sonia. Just for the information of the larger audience. So together with ISF, CGIAR, and also together with FAO, we are planning for a workshop which will actually go deep into the nitty-gritties of SMTA and IP, intellectual property and so on. Yeah. So this is upcoming, or at least in making, and this will come in June, July. Yeah. Thank you again. Well, so there's one interesting one, and it is partly addressed already, Michael, but let me just read it out to you. So it says, hi, Mike, ISEP is mostly for European Union or other multinational companies or large companies in the developed world, and mostly protecting their seed trade. However, in the global south, where CG largely operates, we are talking about SMMEs, where they need a support to enhance their capacity. Don't you see here the big fish is a threat to the small fish in the highly sensitive pond? Well, you guys already addressed that. Would you like to add anything on that, Michael?
Yeah, first of all, as I mentioned, no, we are certainly not a European association, even we are based here. And as I mentioned also to you, and I think there's a clearly misunderstanding also of the diversity of the seed sector. Yes, also in the Southern Hemisphere, we have in many countries, very vibrant seed sector. Again, we need to take into account also what Sonia mentioned before. There's a diversity on crops, perhaps, where you have more vibrant than in others. But I think the most important one, and that's what really we are looking for. In many countries, there's nothing. There's not even an SME. And that's what we are looking for. How we can build, and we know there are lots of initiatives, and you know at AJ and CJ, how many initiatives were created also to support the creation of a seed sector in given countries. Did we succeed or not? That's another question mark. But for us, the priority is how we can have in every country, everywhere, also the sector which is needed. And here we are engaging. And it's not about small, it's not about big. It's just how we can support and how we can build also what I mentioned before with authorities, because this can also be a collaborative effort with authorities. Now, I'm thinking a lot of small or medium-sized companies who could be interested to go into a country in Africa. Why they are not going? Because they don't know where to start, with whom to start. And that's where we think also in association, we can perhaps provide this platform to build this engagement. And I think when we are going further also in the collaboration with CGIAR and ISF, that's where I'm thinking, that's opportunities. How we can build also in different countries the take up of the material from CGIAR as the private sector, how we can use the material, how we can further breed it, or how we can market it. Because I think that's about the goal we all have. We want to build vibrant seed sector, but you cannot build it like this. And this is where we are looking for also with these innovative partnerships.
Sure. Thank you, Michael. So there's one interesting one, and which is different than IP, SMTA, and also the big fish, small fish debate. So this basically is typical, I would say core seed system challenge. It says, and this is from Charles Bett. It says many seed varieties have been released, but only a few are with the farmers. What should be done to move these varieties from the shelves to the farmers? Yeah. And anyone?
I'm happy to take that one, Ajay.
Carla, please go ahead. Yeah, please.
So yeah, it's really important that in this discussion to build capacity at the farmer level, and that's how we believe it. Farmers will take up new varieties. If you don't show them the agricultural practices, if you don't share them with them the knowledge that companies are having to use their to take up new varieties, improved varieties, they will never use it because they have already their heritage and their way of doing, and they will continue in doing that. They don't see the added value of innovative varieties. So that's where the project in Rwanda is really on the ground with field trials to help make the farmers understand the added value of quality seeds and innovative varieties. Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you, Carla. There is one interesting as well. So this is from Bahiru, and it says how to sustain crop landraces, farmer ancestral seeds, and so on, side by side with the improved seeds. Who wants to?
Yeah, again, I think here we are in exactly the discussion. What we are saying, it's about complementarity. I think what we are here is it's up to the farmer to decide. And you have here today farmers who are using land raisers of, I don't know, corn and others, and at the same time, a hybrid vegetable tomato, for instance. That's where I think we need to have in our mind also a farmer is sourcing and would like to source the best for his or her field. And this is not depending if it's a landrace or if it's a variety coming from public breeding or from private breeding. I think the only thing we would like that the farmer has the choice, but we are not here to say, hey, our varieties only used our improved varieties. No, that's not here what we are saying. That's the complementarity. And I think that's also when we are thinking to go beyond this complementarity, which is existing in the fields, or which should exist in the fields when we are thinking about what I see also here in the chat, sometimes formally informed seed systems. No, it's not an opposition. There should not be an opposition. And we don't see this as an opposition. We see this as, remember my first word, complementarity. It's all about the complementarity. And the initiative, for instance, we took about Seeds for Food Coalition, that's exactly in this direction. How we can build further the understanding also towards governments. Hey, yes, okay, we need an enabling business environment, but this should not hinder farmers to have also their informal systems of access to seeds. How we can build a complementarity and to make understand here, the whole thing is about the seed choice for farmer, and it's not about this against this inclusiveness.
Well, thank you, Michael. So I see there are a couple of questions from Srini Rajendran. Crystal, can we offer a mic to Srini? And so before we bring in Chris, I think this is also an opportunity for me that it's not only Ajay for SeedEqual. So Srini also is our colleague from SeedEqual. So Srini, Crystal, can we offer a mic to Srini?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ajay.
Srini, do you have a mic with you?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, great. Thanks to all. Ajay, thanks a lot. My question, this is related to vegetatively propagated crops like potatoes and bananas and sweet potatoes and all these crops. The biggest challenge that we see, we produce the quality seeds and you create access to quality seeds. Once farmers, they purchase, they don't come back for at least a couple of years. Unless they feel like there's a serious problem, then they look for a seed. which is fine perfectly from the farmer perspective. But when you look at from the perspective of seed delivery system, that creates a little challenge because the other actors, they like to keep their consistency seed supply in the seed delivery system. Like for example, early generation seed, they're supposed to keep their production going on to make sure that they supply seeds to the farmers. So like long gap taking for farmers to take time to come back and purchase, that will create a big problem to sustain EGS production. So I see from my experience, most of the VPCs are normally a farmer-led seed enterprises model. And whereas in the upstream in the seed value chain, EGS are normally dominated by the government. You don't have any private players. Maybe the potato is the exceptional case. So with this very complex system, excluding potato, how do I ensure that there is a consistent seed supply in the seed delivery system? And if private industries are like to invest their money, and how do I attract them? Because this is completely a different crop. The crop nature is different. So any suggestions or any ideas are welcome.
Sonia, would you like step in, or Matt? It's a more difficult piece, and to respond, I think from our side on this one, I think I would take this up and perhaps come back later on this one.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure, Michael. Yeah, sure. Thank you, Shini again. I see Ian online. Ian, would you like to come in on with your reflection or any comment or suggestion, Ian? Crystal, can we offer a mic to Ian? Hello, Ian.
Oh yeah, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you, Michael, for this. Yeah, great to see that the MOU has been signed. No, I was just interested in, you made a comment, and obviously the strength of ISF is your membership, as you said. I was intrigued by your comment about Bangladesh and the 7,500, and maybe it's even more than 7,500. I was just wondering whether your membership includes, whether you've looked at things like farmer cooperatives, or farmer producer organizations that are producing quality seed, that are formally registered as seed merchants and going through quality processes. And if not, have you ever thought about expanding that sector? Because I think that would speak to more inclusive seed systems.
Yeah, thanks, Jan, and nice to engage with you. Absolutely. And again, also what I would like to emphasize, this is at the national level where also is decided who is member, who is not member of a national seed association. But I can tell you, in most of the countries, cooperatives and farmer cooperatives are an essential driver of the seed sector. Look, I'm always saying the good example of a cooperative, can you call it even multinational, is a company like Limagrain. It's a cooperative. It started with farmers, and I think this example of Limagrain is very often also taken up by others. And that's what we are looking for, This is not about private investment money or something like this. No, that's exactly the diversity of the seed sector, and farmers cooperatives who are working on sometimes production, but even on marketing, are absolutely part of what we are calling the private seed sector, and which are somehow composed by our national seed associations with their diversity of membership. Absolutely part of it and absolutely priority. And I think this is also, very often, look, the example of Rwanda is a good one, because the example of Rwanda is also, when you speak with the Rwanda government, what they are looking for is production of seeds. Yeah, okay, production of seeds in the country. That's not an easy piece, yet to start to bring improved varieties there, to build a system there is good. But then production of seeds, it's something different. And very often this starts also where you are starting to train and to share knowledge with farmers to make them seed producers, because seed produce something totally different from the rest of the farming. And I think that's very often the starting point of somehow a seed business. And therefore, Jan, absolutely fine, absolutely what we are looking for, and that's part of the game.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I see a couple of hands raised. Can we go to Hans Bardwaj? Hans, do you have a mic now?
Yeah, Ajay, can you hear me?
Very well, yes. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Ajay, and thanks, Michael, for a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate this. My question is, it's very normal or common currently that all the varieties which are developed through the public breeding programs, including the CG system, typically the general practice is that they will be commercialized, produced, and sold through the public seed system. And there are very few examples, if I could think of, very, very few. You can literally count them maybe in single digits, I think, where you see that some of the companies have licensed in varieties developed through the public program and commercialize those. So I'm just wondering, what is it which we can do to incentivize both sides, both the private sector companies as well as the public sector breeding organizations to make these varieties available and see if they could be commercialized through the private sector. And I think that will really make a huge difference and impact, because there's a lot of varieties developed through the public breeding programs. They're very competitive, very high performing, but they never get to see the light of the day or on the farmers' fields. So I would be really interested in your thoughts.
Sonia, would you like, or I'm happy to go? You can go. I start and you can complement. That's, I would like to be frank. For me, this is perhaps in the heart of the new memorandum of understanding between ISF and CGIAR. For me, this is exactly where I think today we are missing something. Where I'm saying, yeah, the private sector is here, but the private sector is here also perhaps to strengthen this take-up of varieties coming from the CGIAR system, but also from public breeding. In far too many countries, as you mentioned, it's not a reality. Let's be frank, we are not here to criticize anybody. What we are looking for is how we can build this, how we can support our members also to engage further with the CGIAR system, how we can CGIAR system push further also to engage with the private sector. Even, I'm thinking you have varieties or you have material available, but we have perhaps companies who could be interested to go in a given country with these varieties. They are not going because they are not yet there. How we can build this together, that's the collaborative approach we need. I think the One CGIAR is certainly also helping to go in this direction. We need to increase the understanding, and we are looking for also, because today I know IRI is increasingly collaborating with the private sector. There's an increased uptake of varieties from IRI by the private sector, but it's still far too low. And very often and here may I say it, perhaps it's only the bigger companies who are taking up, and not enough the diversity of our also SMEs who are taking up the variety or material from CGIAR. This would be for me the priority. How we can build a system. It's about licensing. It's about markets. It's about crops. It's about knowledge. It's about trust. How we can build this. And this memorandum of understanding for me, this would be in the heart. Together, perhaps even go into countries or together assess countries to see, hey, you have something here. We can help the market understanding. The private sector has the market understanding, perhaps a little more than others, because that's our day-to-day business also. With our market understanding, with your knowledge, how we can bridge this together and go into countries even where we are not present, or go into countries where we are saying, okay, we are ready to take it up as private sector, but we need here also then the enabling environment in the country. But again, we need also to clarify, and this is something I know IRI is very advanced in this take-up of varieties, how we can build this also perhaps with all the CGIAR system. That's perhaps where One CGIAR and the private sector can go further. Sonia, perhaps you would like to step in?
No, I think you have basically addressed the main points. Maybe just one thing that I wanted to add, going a little bit back to the seed choice and what we want to offer to farmers. Of course, talking about CGIAR varieties and private sector varieties. And there are also, of course, farmers varieties, indigenous varieties, and a lot of other things. So I just wanted to note that our objective also in the Rwanda project is to work with local partners as well, and to have everything offered to the farmers. So it's really the choices with them. We leave them to decide whether they want this or that or another variety. And we don't really, our goal is not to convince them that they should take one or the other variety. We just want to show them which variety performs how, and the choices with them to decide whether they take the public one, the private one, or the traditional one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hans. So Michael, Sonia, and Kaula. So there are number of other questions which are still popping in Q&A. But in the interest of time, I think we will have to close the session. But before we do that, but I think before we go there, what we will do, we will actually make sure that all of those questions are being recorded, and we'll basically share those questions with you, so that in our collaborative agenda that we will develop going ahead, probably we can try to address some of those relevant questions and maybe issues and so on. Yeah. So with that, may I now invite Chris Ojeo, the lead for CGIAR Seed Equal Initiative, to please thank the speakers and give your concluding remarks and close it. Chris.
Thank you very much. Just double checking that audible.
Very well, yes.
Thank you so much, and thanks Ajay for hosting us, and special thanks to Michael and team from ISF for that great presentation. I'm sure everyone agrees that it was great, and a lot that we've learned, particularly on areas that are not necessarily strictly speaking profit making. I know many of us knows the private sector's seed systems to be only profit making, but we've heard of investments like World Seed Partnerships, Seed for Food Coalition, Seed for Nutrition, inclusive seed systems approaches, which are not necessarily strictly speaking for profit, but areas that are emphasis around public, private, I would say producer partnerships that are involving the interest of stakeholders beyond just production of seed and sale. Thank you so much for that. And special thanks to the more than almost close to 400 participants that joined. We are still having slightly below 300 participants online. That was great, and thanks for spending your time with us. Apologies for the initial hitch on the chat box. I know many of you reached out to me privately asking me that we get the chat box open because you wanted connections and you wanted to link up with others. That's part of the reason why some people join, particularly to identify who is who on the online and how they can connect later. Just to emphasize that we have contacts of everyone, because all those who participated registered. And if you'd like to reach out to anyone after this, whether they are coming from the public or private or donor institutions, we can be able to reach out to them and reach out to you and link you up with them for further communication on matters related to public-private partnerships on seed systems, including policy issues and including some of the questions that you asked that were not addressed during this session. Otherwise, once again, thank you so much, and thanks for sparing your time. Bye-bye. A bientôt.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Michael and team, and thanks, everyone. Thanks, all the participants. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Thank you.